Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for watching or listening. It's Liam Hartree back with you today with another episode of Presenting Champions. And today I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm joined by Martin Brown, who I believe goes by the name Trey, the name Smash. He's got some very cool names out there. I'm going to be talking about everything, obviously, MMA fighting, bare knuckle boxing as well. This guy's been in there with some of the best names. Obviously, had a lot of success in MMA, but he's transitioned to bare knuckle where he's doing some really big things there as well. We're going to be talking about obviously the fights themselves, but a few other topics of things, including the mindset that it takes to reach such a high level in not one but two of the toughest sports in the world. We're going to be talking about what Martin's got coming up next, as well as what he's already achieved. There'll be some tips in here for up and coming fighters as well, or people in life in general who are chasing their dreams. So that's you, the listeners. And Champ, just thank you very much, brother, for taking time out of your morning and making this happen. Basically, thank you. Yeah, no problem. Like I was saying before, man, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you bearing with me while I've moved countries, like we were just saying. Anyway, getting into it from then and there. One of the things I want to touch on now, we'll talk about the MMA, we'll talk about the bare knuckle boxing, we'll talk about everything. But we've been talking for so long. I remember, I think we first started speaking when you'd either very recently transitioned from MMA into bare knuckle, or you were just about to do so. I can't remember which, but I remember I first contacted you around that time. So, in terms of the inspiration for making that switch and stepping out of your comfort zone with MMA into bare knuckle boxing, what was the initial inspiration for that? What gave you that idea to want to do that?
I had already started doing MMA, and I won the first. So this company called Titan, they were on the UFC Fight Pass, and they they had a fight in Kazakhstan to fight for the title. I went out there and I did it. I came back and we had another fight in VR, and I was like, man, the streaming service. Like, what does it take to be in the UFC? I'm like massive win streak. Never had anybody fed to me. I've always fought like whoever was number one in their state. But I guess I got it too late. You know, by the time I talked to I don't even remember who they were. I talked to a few people that were on the staff of the USC at that time. They were right before Corona. And they said, they're like, they didn't say no. They said I did pretty good with my career, but they were looking for, I was like 35, they were looking for somebody that was young. And, I did everything I was supposed to do. And and the facilities I had, we were a little under equipped. I had was living in Tampa at that time. Excuse me. There was no gyms that had anybody fighting in the UFC. If you wanted to even get that experience, you had to travel. You had to go to, I think Fusion had Mike Perry, a bunch of guys. You had to go out there and train with those guys. And it was always hard because they see that level every day. You doing the best you can with your gym with people who hadn't even sniffed the cage with that level of experience. And then you go out there and it's like, oh, this is terrible. Then it's the consistency of it. Like I always spent whatever money I had to get the type of training I had. But I'll just go in and smoke through you for one round. But having that level consistently is always hard. But but in the end, I did whatever I had to do. I'm just explaining how hard it was. Like I would end up winning this fight. It was just hard. So when I was I had competed in let's see, I competed in Titan twice, and then after the last um after the second title defense the first title defense, second title fight in the Dominican Republic, they that's when Corona hit. And my head coach was a boxing coach. So I was always that guy in MMA that could box. And nobody was throwing shows, but in America, usually native reservations have their own laws. So the country was shut down. Nobody's throwing fights, but the reservation they don't abide by the same laws, so they're still throwing fights. So it was the only way we could still get paid. So, but the only fights they were throwing was bare knuckle. And I was looking at the coach, like, man, this shit is crazy. Oh my God, I don't know if I want to do this. But they're paying a lot more than we were making in MMA. And I'm not working right now. I can use the money. I'm looking at my boxing coach like, can we just like I know it's gonna be different, but can you do it? Can you train me for a bare knuckle boxing match? I'm like, well, let's find out. And we did it. I got out. But the plan still wasn't to go back. And you know how I start. You ever start something and it just grow legs and run away? That, that's that's kind of how it was. Right? So then I beat this guy up, and there was a lot of buzz around it. And, I'm a pretty big ticket seller too, so selling out the show. Everybody's like, "Oh man, this is awesome, man! This is way better than MMA." I'm like, "No, it's not." My hand hurts, but you know, and from there, everybody's asking for it, the promotion, growing my following, stuff like that. So after that, I just kept fighting for them. The rest was history. And MMA is my first love. Sometimes I think about going back and like, for what? Like, why? Like, I know I can fight. The goal when I started was to get to the UFC. I made it to Bellator, and that's when Scott Coker bought the company, and they switched regimes, got rid of everybody on the prelim, which is me. And what sucks is after the second fight, we were supposed to go back into negotiation, so I could be on the main card. But just every time I'll get right there, and something happens. That's how I ended up.
Yeah, man, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And obviously, you've never looked back. So, touching on that for a moment, because we're just kicking things off with bare knuckle, we will talk about the MMA as well in more depth. But what do you regard to be your best fight in bare knuckle? Because I mean, personally, I've seen in fact, I think I've seen all of them, your fights in bare knuckle. But it's different when obviously you're the guy in there and you're assessing that performance that way instead of from the outside, if you get what I mean. It's a whole nother thing. So, I'm curious of like what your favorite moments in bare knuckle are for one reason or another, you know?
I don't know. I can tell you if I win, I'm good. If I come out healthy, I'm good. Um, I I've been fighting for so long. I started at 18, so and I'll be 40. My next fight is on August the 17th on my birthday. So like I've gotten to the point to where if I get the job done and I come out healthy, I'm happy. Uh, because at this point, I don't really make too many mistakes. It's the only thing that can stop me now is father time. Am I going to get too old to deal with competition? As far as solving the problem, I don't think I have a problem with anybody now. It's like it sucks because this is the best I've ever been. This is the oldest I've ever been. I break a fingernail and I'm out for a year now.
Yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I mean, there's still some good things yet to come, man, 100%. And we'll talk about that as well. Um, Before we do, just a real quick question. I mean, you said there about your hand hurting and stuff, and just a question for the fans. I mean, bare knuckle being hit with obviously with nothing, does it hurt more than MMA? Because some people say it does in terms of the punches now specifically, and some people say it's not really much different. But the fans always want to know about this one, you know?
And I can't speak for, especially people who've done it before. I can't speak for them, but um, it's, I don't know, it's just different. when you hit somebody with a glove, a round surface, you you can maximize the point of impact. So when you hit with a surface area, it's big. And then, but
Yeah.
when you got a knuckle, you have all of the weight and power you can generate, foot, hip, shoulder, and one little small point of impact on your knuckle, and you get hit in the face. Like, and when Palomino hit me in the back of the head, that probably, like, that was the first time I got hit in my life. I was like, oh man, this ain't just hurt in a fight. Like, I'm like damaged. Like, I wasn't sure. And it's just how it is when you get hit with bad enough. So it was, but there are times where, like, I remember my first fight against Juan Pena. And we tied up and he just started hitting me. I think it was because I was so nervous about, like, oh man, it's a bare knuckle fight. It's a bare knuckle fight. I'm going to get messed up for real. I don't think I felt it. I just got out of there and I was like chewing some food. It hurts. I don't even remember getting hit. And I look at the video, I was like, oh, that's when he did that. So I don't know. There are certain moments where I was so nervous that I didn't even feel it. Then there are moments where I was like, all right, this hurts. This hurts bad, and I might be messed up. Like, I don't know if this is gonna be able to be fixed. So I don't know. But I go back and forth.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Okay. Now, to give a mention to this one, this up and coming fight that you got now, you mentioned on your birthday and everything like this. How are you feeling on the build up to it? How are your preparations going? And we need to give that a little bit of a mention about the that fight as well. You know, and how you're feeling on the build up to it.
Uh, so just like now, it's nothing is new to me. Like, even if I do a bare knuckle fight, do a boxing match, even if I do an MMA, like, I just don't have any respect for anybody. I don't think there's anything you can show me that I haven't. I don't think there's anything you can show me that I don't know how to do it. I just feel like I'm that guy. I just feel like this is the most confident that I've ever been. And I think a lot of that is attributed to uh, number one, being a veteran. Two, always priding myself at being skilled, like knowing the actual art, studying fighting, studying styles, and bouncing around training like older coaches that not just regular coaches that have produced champions, and then talking to them because you're in a weird time. Like today, you can go on Instagram, Facebook, you can actually message one of those trainers. People are always talking to fighters. They're not gonna answer their social media. Those coaches will. So you can actually talk to them. And if you can't get in touch with them, you can get in touch with one of their up and coming fighters and say, hey, can you get me in touch with your coach? So like you you really don't have I ain't gonna say that arrogant, but I'm not gonna say you don't have an excuse, but I'm gonna say there are ways to get what you need now. Whereas when I started, I remember not knowing what we were doing. And, I was 18, so that was over 20 years ago. Like I remember going in and I'm gonna think of it like getting into a fight at the club or something. Like not knowing it. I remember my impression of what an armbar was is when you take them out, you just grab his wrist and put it between your legs and sit back. Like we didn't know nothing. But these days, those days are so far gone that I just feel like I just feel confident. I feel like if I lose, it's not. I'm not gonna attribute that to him doing something good. It's something that I didn't do right. And to be honest, that's most of the fights I've lost. I've never felt like anybody that I've lost to felt one time. The majority, the majority of all the fights I've lost have been me taking a fight on 14 day notice, 10 day. or me not having the ability to do a camp. Because remember we were in Tampa at the time, so like me, I mean they had gyms, but like I never even want to train gym. And they got a quote. They say you can't get sharp with a butter knife. And if you think of it literally, it doesn't make sense. But if you understand what they're trying to say is like the gym ain't good, that's your standard. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna work on defensive movements or looking to counter punches. People from punches who they don't even throw their punches right. Like you want to get used to dealing with that high level. So like sometimes I wouldn't even train with the guys. I would just get my coach and we would work on our own stuff. Then when it's time to spar, we would do sparring. So like those are fights I lose. When I couldn't train for them, I took the fight 10 or 14 days. 14 days always, it was always what it was. 14-day notice. Um, and that was it. So it was never a situation where I had to go home and be like, man, that dude whooped me and I didn't know how to deal with it. It was more of a, man, if I had actually trained, I could put a little bit more gas into it. Like, got him hurt, I got him on the run. Just need a little bit more. Or somebody throwing something at my time is just a little off. Things like that. I never, I never lost a fight. I trained for the full camp. Even the Palomino fight, um, I still feel like if we fight, I feel like not only will I knock him out, I think it'd be easy. But the fight that fight that they call a master class, that's on YouTube, Bobby Taylor fight. I the surgery right here, I snapped my hand, and I had to fight Palomino 8 weeks later. 8 weeks later, and even the Bobby Taylor fight, I was coming off 6 months from knee surgery. So, like, I didn't have footwork, walking into fights with one hand. Uh, but, again, it was the way everybody was approaching it was out of sight, out of mind. Don't take the fight, you'll never get this opportunity. And in retrospect, hindsight's always 2020. In retrospect, I feel like I should have. I feel like when you skill and you got to be, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's the next day, I mean, people go see you do something about it, and your skill can't be denied. But not one of those fights I lost did anybody say, well, he did take the fight for to the face. Well, he only had one hand. So in the end of the day, like nobody's gonna care why you lost. So I think in hindsight, what I should have did was just like, well, okay, what y'all do. And then sat on the bench, let my hand heal, let my knee heal, go through a lot more rehab than I did get my knee healed. Because even when he was spinning me and turning me, I was having problems catching my balance, about falling on the floor. But I have that kind of power that if I land one, I'm gonna knock your ass out. So I just always felt like, well, we're down, but I feel like if I land, and I did land. I don't know, you remember the third round, I landed, dropped him, and then Andrew Glenn said he didn't see nothing, but it's crazy. They gave him 4 rounds and gave him the fifth. So if he had a counter that knocked down in the third, he would drop. You know how that goes. They're not gonna do that. You're fighting the champ. But hey, it's just now. I guess before my ADD kick in, I go all across the board. Um, in a nutshell, I don't. It's not arrogance, but it's backed by data. It's just confidence. I just don't feel. I feel like I've done the best I could to learn the art to the point to where I don't worry about what nobody wants to think. If we go into a ring, got to pull out a knife. All right, I should be scared because I didn't train for that. Go in the ring, we pull out a gun. I should be scared. I didn't train for that. As long as he got these, I don't worry about that. I did the best I could, and when you did the best you could, You ain't got nothing to worry about. You ain't got nothing to be scared of. You don't have anything. Um, there was nothing you could do. Can't blame. He just better than you. I just,
I get where you're coming from. And you know something, I'm really glad that we got into some of that stuff about like what happens behind the scenes and everything, because what you were saying there just now about the things people don't see and the things people don't realize or don't even care about, after some of the losses, even after some of the wins, though, they don't see all the work that goes into it. I'm really glad it's something I try and do with these fight interviews is show like the human side of what's going on here. It's not just two tough men, I mean, there's a lot of things, everyone's got families, everyone's got their own health, everyone's got like the mental side of it. So it's good. Now, something I want to touch on here, because we've obviously kicked things off with like the present day, with the future, with like, you're keeping going at the age you are. I think that's amazing. I think age is just a number, but I think it's, you're showing people that. I want to go back for a minute because when like you started in MMA and everything like this, when I speak to guys from like your era and everything, obviously it wasn't as big as what it is now. And a lot of people were getting into like getting into it for different reasons, if you get what I mean, than what they are now. I mean, these days you've got like that very clear path of, becoming a UFC champion and doing different things. In your day, I mean, it was like people were still saying cage fighting, people didn't know what it was and all this type of stuff, I'm guessing. So going back there to your inspiration to want to do it, to become a fighter in the first place, especially to a sport that wasn't as mainstream as it is now, if you get what I'm saying with this. I mean, what was that initial inspiration all the way back then? Were you like wrestling or doing things in high school or something before that? Or was it just, and I want to go back to the very beginning of your origins as a fighter, please.
I'm from a place called Mississippi. It's the poorest state in the UK, but it's just a lot of country, a rural area. Um, so a lot of stuff we see on TV. Imagine, I mean, I don't live on a street. Well, I didn't live on the street with dirt roads. I lived in the city part of Mississippi. But imagine seeing stuff on TV and you can't. There's nowhere you can go to find any of that stuff. Or you see the latest clothing come up. Kids. It's important to kids. It's an adult. Like, oh, it's terrible. But then there's nowhere you can get it. You know, so you'd watch movies like The Karate Kid, and there's nowhere you can go to have a full gym full of people that are not only in training but competing. So I grew up watching that all the time, and I had uncles and cousins that were they competed in American kickboxing, a couple of people in karate, taekwondo. We had a lot of guys around, but even them, all they could do was try to train with each other. We just didn't have the facility. Then on my 18th birthday, yeah, on the 18th birthday, I remember I think I'm at that age where I can kind of do what I want, but I still live with my parents. I was looking in the phone book for the jiu-jitsu school, and I was calling guys, and most of them were just saying crazy stuff. The way you do it, I've been around sports enough to know when you don't know what you're talking about. Jiu-jitsu it was like that art. Like they'd be like, hey, you guys do jiu-jitsu? Because I knew you was gonna. I wasn't worried about anybody striking with me because I knew I could. I knew I was an athlete, and I knew that I could get the type of training that I'd be okay. I'd be able to handle myself. It wasn't nothing my uncle or somebody couldn't teach me. Um, but the thought if you don't know jujitsu, the thought of somebody grabbing you, holding you down, and like smashing you in the face, and you can't do nothing about it. Somebody got to save you. I was like, oh yeah, I need to learn how to do jujitsu. And we didn't have wrestling in the whole entire state. No wrestling. You just watch it online. People doing class doubles, people picking people up, slamming people, and you're like, we have no way to deal with that. The next best thing was trying to just call it in. So it wasn't online. I literally went to a phone and called around, and everybody was like, "Yeah, we do that stuff." I'm like, "You guys do jujitsu? We do that stuff, ground fighting. He do a little bit of that. Yeah. He don't know what he talking about. And then I go to the next, call next, place. And well, we don't do jujitsu per se, but we twist wrists and small joint manipulations, fingers and stuff like that. That's not on to the next. And I ended up finding this gym that was like 30. Um, he did jujitsu. He's like, I don't have many fighters. I got like 2 or 3 fighters at a gym, like 60 people in the gym. Most of them are recreational. But he's like, I am a black belt in jiu-jitsu, name in the lineage. But I didn't know anything about any of that. And he legitimately was a jiu-jitsu practitioner that competed in judo. And that was my start. But even then, when people from other states would travel, you would notice a drastic difference. You'd be like, well, hey, how long you been fighting? He'd be like, 6 months. He kick everybody ass in the whole gym that's been training for years. So, even a blind man could see that they had higher levels than we had. So I go in and I was more athletic than a lot of people. I don't think I was technical at all when I started. But the biggest thing is you just gotta have a plan. Like I knew I didn't have much money. I was living with my parents, and you know, in America we had, my dad's he's a he's a computer. I mean, his degree, he had a master's degree in computer science. He's a computer programmer and a systems analyst. So you remember, he's born in the 50s. Black people at the time had just we had our civil rights movement in 1964. So it was hard for him to get an education. So imagine coming home, the fight that he had to get a degree, and I'm coming home. My brother's going to college. I come home and say, "All right, Dad, there's this thing called the UFC. I really want to give it a shot." He was so mad. He's like, "Get out, get out. You ain't trying to do nothing with your life. Get out." So I had to do this on my own. The way I planned it is, I was like, working minimum wage, and now I can't say anything because I gotta get my own place. I'm always behind on all my bills. Um, and the state was impoverished anyway. Like it was like $4.75 an hour. So I mean, I was super and the gym I trained in was and 30 minutes away. Doing that 5, 6 days a week. And in barbershops, I had to think of something I could do that could that wouldn't affect me when I'm fighting. If I say I need to fight, I don't want to go to my boss and he said, "No, you gotta go to work." So I ended up getting a barber license. But barbershops are at their peak time, right when everybody gets off at 5 o'clock. The gym opened at 6. I had to leave at 5:30. So I was like, I was always struggling. And ended up moving, out. And it was just hard, man. Parents wasn't gonna help me. But that's that was my start. But the way I planned it out was I said, man, if I ever get a shot, if I ever get a shot and they give me a check big enough to just leave and do it. And that's exactly, if it hadn't have been for that moment, uh, I wouldn't be who you see today. So, and it was crazy. I was the B side. I was brought in. I got in and I was, so when I was telling you that all of those guys in other places, they come in, they beat us up, and you could tell that they were way more skilled than us. They were doing leg locks when we didn't even know what that was. Um, so I said, if I'm gonna make, I really want to do this. I stay here. I use foresight. I I look and see who I'm gonna be 20 years from now. I'm gonna be at a gas station or Walmart. I'm gonna be a manager 20 years from now. And nothing wrong with anybody who does that. Um, but when you die and everybody else die, it'll be as if you never existed. because you didn't do anything significant. And there's nothing wrong. Some people don't want to be significant. It's not for everybody. But man, I mean, I come from a place where everybody don't have anything. I mean, nobody has anything. I don't want to be like that. It's like I want who I am to last for hundreds of years. I want it to be get back, my dog. Okay, I just want to be remembered for the work I put in. So that's how I planned it. I finally called a bunch of promoters. Everybody was turning me down, turning me down. And then one picked up the fight, put me in the guy, and Cody was undefeated. I go in and I don't just whoop him. It's spectacular. Massive leg kicks, broke his finger. Picked in it. They thought I could wrestle, but I was just an athlete picking people up, slamming people and stuff. If you look at it, it's like a 155 or Rampage Jackson type of style, you know. And but from that fight, that guy's manager was like, I would like to. He's like, there's no way you should have been able to do with the resources you had. I would like to manage you. And he called a gym in Tampa, got me relocated, got me a place, got me a gym. And he was like, I want to see what you do. You have resources. And I had already been talking to, it was a boxing coach that was traveling at the boxing gym I was going to. And he was like, man, he said the same thing. He got a lot of talent for a guy who doesn't box. I had just knocked out their their Golden Glove champion in the state and never boxed. And he was a heavyweight. I was like 153, and I'm knocking him out. So everybody was like, he's talented, he just don't have the resource. And so going there, coach actually lived in Tampa. The MMA gym that they set me up with was in Tampa. They were like 30 minutes apart, but they're both in Tampa. Now, the last thing was just find a job, and the rest was history. And I went on like a 9-fight win streak all the way up to Bellator. So I think the message today for a lot of them, man, I think a lot of these guys, including myself when I started, is they have such a small mind when it comes to what the goal is in the sport. The sport, the goal should be to get your get out, health, um, like get like make the sport pay you, get out, show your skill set, go get your gym. You're very articulate and speech with your confidence. You know, I mean, it's more avenues in this industry. Like this, my coach, my boxing coach, the new one I got, he only does camp. He has a gym, but he doesn't train guys up from scratch. He doesn't even want anything to deal with. I mean, he don't want to do none of that. He just wants. So basically, if a coach has his own fighter, and they say, "Hey, we got this fighter, PBC, we got the fighter," and he says, "What do you charge? What's his purse?" Okay, I would like a percentage of that. Basically, he gets his guy for these 6 weeks, and he sends him back. You don't have to worry about anything. And then there's another guy coming in, and he does that. Basically, he studies this guy's style. He doesn't want to change anything. Let me sharpen a few things. What the way you do this, I'm just going to enhance what you already. I get so many different avenues in this sport. I mean, it's people who make a pretty healthy living off just doing privates in the state. I don't know how in other countries. There's people who make a lot of money. Just looking at this guy, he was charging 175 an hour, and he was telling me that he was booked. You know, like man, we working 8 hours a day, $175 an hour, and doing something he loves to do. Something he could do. There's no stress. It's something he could do in his sleep. You know, like that should be the goal. But for me, mine was to get to the USA. I just want to get to the USA. I just want to get to the USA. And it's a lot more to getting to the UFC than just your skill. And sometimes like they want to hear the behind the scenes stuff. Like sometimes like you live in a capitalist country. So that means a lot of times you can't generate the money. It's going to play into if you're chosen, especially any kind of boxing within the sport. If if you I know you want to stay biased because this is how the show is, but if you're fighting and you look at the guy you're fighting and you're like, man, he's from another, he lives in the States, but he's from another country. And he's from a country where he's able to garner a whole country full of views. And then like a lot of Latinos, they come to the East Coast. You know, you're fighting a Latin guy from the East Coast that already got a winning record. A promoter's looking at it like, I can't have him lose because he's selling $20,000, $30,000 a ticket, and you can fight, you're great, but you do like $5,000 in tickets, and you cost me more. But the only reason I'm even calling you in the first place is because he's going to be tickets. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Like, like
yeah, yeah,
he's the tickets, he's the ticket seller. But that's why you're fighting him. And if you surprise them with an upset because they just don't give it to you. You can see it right now in BKFC. We have a guy in my gym. So I own a gym, I train in different gyms. I own shipping in there. That's where Dave Mondale, Jared Warren, the two BKFC champions. Jared has the belt at 185. Dave has the belt at 175. But we have another guy that's like one. He fights at 145. Brandon Allen. He has knocked out just about everybody in the first round, first or second. His debut, same thing. He needed the money to the fight on like a week's notice, and lost by decision. And it's still split decision. Everybody say they thought he won, but after that, when he's in the gym consistently, he has knocked out every single person they gave him. And so you have the guy, Kai Stewart, who had the belt. And you got Brian Duran, who was ranked like number 3 or number 2. And they so but Brandon was ranked above both of them. So Brandon should have been like ranked number 1. And Brian Duran should have been like 2 or 3. Brian Duran does 40, I mean, according to Facebook on Instagram, he said he does 46,000 in ticket sale in Miami. So you know you're not gonna fight him outside of Miami. He make more money in Miami to have him than in Kai Stewart. I don't know how he does it, but from what I hear, he's from like a place where they don't even have that many fights. There's not that much money there, like Utah, Wisconsin, something like that. But somehow he's a crazy ticket seller. So you know what? They don't let nobody else beat any one of those guys up. They make them fight each other. So they end up fighting each other, and Kai Stewart wins. So Brandon's still sitting at number 1. They signed Kai Stewart to fight the dude who's number 3. You see how that works?
yeah,
Like they're not gonna let you ruin their money. So it's a whole bunch. It is so much involved in fight sports. So you are at a time frame where you don't. It's not you're not tasked with the responsibility of just teaching your guy how to fight. You are tasked with the responsibility of teaching him business. And then like even when you say, okay, I'm planning on investing in this kid, you have to go ahead and start growing his brain. You have to make it to where the promoter don't even want to put somebody in there that could ruin their money. But you know, if you don't do that, he gonna have a hard road like I had. Being from a place that don't garner that many ticket sales, so I literally had to beat everybody who they put in front of me, and it had to be decisive. It was close, I'm gonna lose the fight. So, um, so I think again, that's why I keep going back to you got to plan it, man. You have to plan it, or you just wasting your time. And I got a homeboy who never planned on getting to the UFC. He, we used to show him fights. We'd be like, all right, so we talked to the promoter. He gave us three fighters. Which one you looking at? He'll look at the fight and be like, nah, this guy's too good. He look at the next fight. Ooh, hell no. I don't want him. Look at this guy and be like, I think I can kick his ass. Yeah, go ahead. Let's see. Call the promoter and see what he say about this guy. And I used to get so irritated because I used to fight whoever they handed to me. And I'm looking at him each time he he fight, he's selling more and more tickets. They think this guy is Godzilla, but they don't see that behind the scenes. Like he chose this guy, and he looks like Godzilla because this guy is matched to make him look like Godzilla. This guy sucks, and I got mad at him, and because that's just envy or jealousy. But if I truly look at it, that was the best thing he could do for his career. And then afterwards, he got him a big ass check and opened. He opened a. He got like a little at home gym for private in his garage, and now I think he owns a gym. And then last I checked his page, um, he was renting like RVs. Did that from the money from the fight. And he had a plan. He's like, I'm not losing, I'm not getting beat up. I have no aspirations of going to the UFC. I want to get my money and I want to do something that doesn't require getting hurt. And that was it. So that's the thing. They use the sport. Don't let the sport use you. I know, man, you didn't expect my ADD to that.
Well, I love it because you never know what people are going to say. And I know that you had a message, and I know you had more to say than just the fights, which I'm happy about, by the way, because that's why I do these. If we were just talking about fights only, I would have given it up and just got bored of it. But when you're going into
Right.
deep things, deeper things, and having been around the game for a long time in the media side of things, obviously not as long as you, not like 20 years or whatever, like 10 years or whatever for me. But being around it from that side and being in the dressing rooms with people and being in the gyms with people and everything, even if it's from the media side, you see the business side of it a lot. And people don't realize, I mean, you see a lot of these young guys getting in, thinking it's about bragging rights, thinking it's about being like the top guy in their town, thinking it's about fighting whoever they put in front of you. And all of that stuff is wrong. So the fact that you're mentoring people and teaching them about the business side, I mean, you know, I think it's amazing because then obviously they can avoid some of those pitfalls. Obviously, you've had a very hard road, and I respect the struggle and how it's made you who you are today. But I'm also glad you passed on your knowledge. So no, I mean, I think it's a great message, man. I think it's a powerful message, and I think that there's a big gap there, in terms of education and in terms of like, prepping people mentally in the fight game, not just to compete now, even though that's lacking, but the business side, massive. So I mean, people don't realize it is a business. So absolutely amazing to get that out there. And obviously when we're doing this today, other fighters in other parts of the world, they may never meet you. I hope they do, but they may never. But they can still hear that and think, okay, maybe I should be doing this differently. And of course, if that encourages even one person to sort of change track and sort of swerve this road and go this way, then, maybe we've done some good work with that. I don't know. I think so. Couple of other things with this, I don't want to touch on sort of the last couple of things. Obviously, you've served your country, right? You've been in the military as well. Am I correct in saying that? No, okay. I
Nah,
thought
you just see these videos of me shooting. But that I own a firearms accessory. So like
right. I'm with
red,
you.
red dots, flashlight, stuff like that. Sell ammo,
Yeah.
conceal and carry purses and bags and all that stuff like that. Anything tactical related, that's what I sell.
Right. I got you. I got you. Yeah, I've seen that. So you've got the gym and you've got the firearms side of things, So okay, so you're doing well outside of fighting as well. I mean, I respect the hustle there, man. I really respect that because what you were just saying from where you come from as well, to where you are now in that sense. I mean, I think it's amazing and not to sound cheesy or anything, because I really don't mean to sound, but you know what they say, you know what one man can do, another man can do, and things like this. I mean, the fact that you know, you're making it in life, and I know it can always be a bit easier, but where you come from to now, I like to look on the bright side of things as much as possible, and not only in terms of fighting, obviously in what you've achieved. But also in this sense as well, I think it really shows people what's possible as well. That's what I mean, not to sound cheesy, but it shows people when you're winning fights now, when you're doing well, it shows people what's possible. I mean, I know it's not been an easy path, and even from not just from what you say, but like even like I can feel it, as you're talking about it, to be honest, and I can see it in your face. But at the same time, where you're at now, it's not really a question, but for what it's worth, I'm happy that you're doing well. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's always a struggle, but it sounds like you're doing well from, where it all started. And it's better than the gas station. It's better than that path that was laid out for you. You were saying before, in 20 years. So, that's my view is the bright side. Is it too optimistic? I don't know, but it's how I see it. Anyway, so that's the veteran thing. Cool. Okay.
It'll at least give you a fighting chance, when you know how the game is played.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I would have never wasted that much time. Um, but if you quantify it, right, it's pretty expensive to live in Tampa. If you say like the cheapest place you can get, like in the hood, in the worst of the worst areas, is like $1,500 a month. And
yeah,
it's pretty expensive. So if you think of it like, all right, my rent is 1,500. So if you total out car insurance, you got car notes, you got all of your amenities, and you total it out to like $3,000. And then you're working a job, and let's say you're just breaking even, provided nothing goes wrong, no car breakdowns, anything like that. You know that in the next couple of weeks, MMA persons, they offer two persons. They have a winning person, a show up person, and a winning person. And uh, boxing and knuckle is a flat rate. Just walk in and tell them what you're going to get. Most fighters don't know that. You can tell the promoter, like, I don't want a winner's person. I just want a flat rate. But with that being said, I'll have to go up as high as what my winner's person is. But I'm not going as low as what my show up person is. And you let them know I got things that need to be taken care of, and I need to know without a shadow of a doubt that I'm gonna get. If I fight this day, I'm gonna get this much money. I don't want to be manipulated into fighting hard and possibly dying. I just if I want to quit, which I ain't never quit the fight, but I'm just saying you don't want money to be the reason why you get messed up. Because if you get messed up, you're gonna spend that money on hospital bills. So um, you can negotiate a flat purse. You tell them I want a flat rate, and it's a negotiation. So you bring something to the table. So even if you're a B side guy and you suck, and the other guy is A side, is ticket side, you can go in and say, you can literally go in and be like, man, come on, man, you know good and well I'm not that guy's level, or I'm not even that guy's weight. So I don't mind taking the fight, but you go tell his camp that this is what I want. And you have to just make sure that it makes sense because still business. Somebody will take that fight cheaper. And
yeah,
a promoter just throwing a number in, see what you take. You don't have to fight for that. There's nothing in the contract that you are obligated to do. You every time it's in your contract, you go get somebody to look over it, and you tell them the things you have a problem with. Doesn't specify if you see something about the health insurance that you don't like, you can hand that back to them. You can actually take a pen and mark that out and write over it what you want it to be and hand it back. They could either A tell you to kick rocks, but if the opportunity is right, They're gonna be like, well, I really want to build this guy up and do kind of stuff, and I think it's risk free for my fighter, so I'll take it. I'll take it, and they'll make whatever they'll do whatever they have to do to appease, and vice versa. If you are the ticket seller and they hand you somebody who you think is too hot, you can literally be like, nah. And what is the promoter going to say? The only time if you don't have any leverage, if you say, oh, I do $5,000 in ticket sales, I'm up and coming. I don't want to take any risks. But he got like seven other people that's like $10,000 to $15,000 ticket sellers. Then yeah, you don't have leverage. You'll be like, well, I don't need you on the card. You know what you do? You just go somewhere else that does need you. You know, because the goal is the same. You're still trying when you if you say I want to mark this off my bucket list, I want to get into a fight. And you don't care at that point. You just want to train as hard as you can and go take a fight and get it taken off your bucket list. But if you say I got a goal, a clear path, you have to start manipulating things in a way to help you get there and snag free because you know how these fight sports go. You're in a time frame where stories are like 30 seconds, and it's the next story, the next story, the next story. That makes people's attention span. They've done studies that suggest that people's attention spans are a lot shorter than they were 30 years ago. So they will forget that you ever existed, and all the fighters that are competing, they see them. So getting an injury is bad for business. Going to jail is bad for business. Taking time off take time off physically, but like staying online and making sure you're on their mind. Like when I get back, I'm gonna kick all of their asses. Like making sure you constantly having content pumping up, so people following you, people like following your journey. That's gonna help. You really have to like be strategic in your planning to get there. You make a path. I'll give you. I'll tell you. I'll show you this. What What do you think about Khabib as a fighter, right?
What do I think
Yeah,
about it?
yeah,
What about you?
Khabib.
Oh, Khabib, yeah. Well, I mean, I think Khabib is clever in the sense of what you were talking about earlier, where he's taking the fights at the right time and everything you were talking about with the strategy. I mean, I think it's laid out very well. Um, you know,
Extremely well.
yeah,
Take a look at this. This is Khabib's topology. Nobody ever looks this up. They just say stuff. Now, granted, when he got there, he did what he was supposed to do. But this isn't me shitting on him. This is me showing you that there's a danger. So when Khabib was a debut, he fought a guy 1-0. He was 1-0. He fought a guy 0-4. He was 2-0. He fought a guy 1-0. He was 3-0. He fought a guy 2-0. But at 4-0, he fought a debut. At 5-0, he fought a guy that was 1-0. At 6-0, he fought a guy that was 2-0. At 7-0, he fought a guy that was 2-1. At 8-0, he fought a guy that was 5-5. At 9-0, he fought a guy that was 4-2. At 10-0, he fought a guy that was 13-9. Holy shit. At 11-0, he fought a guy that was 0-2. At 12-0, he fought a guy that was 1-1. 13-0, 5-2. 14-0, debut. So you don't think it's by happenstance that you get that many sorry people in front, you know? I mean, and again, it's not me knocking, not even me saying he's not great, but you can go in, win 3 fights, and lose one. They're like, oh, he trash. He's the worst fighter ever, and you got to start all over. It may take you 2 or 3 years to get back there, but when they're looking at him like he's doing this in such dominating fashion, he need to get his guy shot. And
yeah,
then he beat everybody up over there. And every other country guy you beat up in America, and it's like you hit big leagues now. So you travel, you beat somebody up over here. It's like, all right, that's it. Time to sign him. And even then, when he built up such a massive following, like he has the ability to pick who he want to pick. You take Conor McGregor, pull that up. Conor McGregor, Tap Island, and I'm a fan, by the way. I'm only just showing people how this game is played.
Mm.
Uh, you take when Conor got to the UFC. Where is it? So Conor was a 55, and where is well, we know that Jim Isles was a 45.
Mm.
Yeah, two council bouts back to back with Conor McGregor. I mean, Jim Isles did. Then you look and you see that he has a win on his first fight in the UFC against Marcus Brimage. Do you remember Marcus Brimage was on the Ultimate Fighter at 135?
Yeah.
So once you get in the UFC, you got to fight somebody on staff. So how do you navigate? How do you navigate to find a risk-free fight? Fight somebody in a small weight class. He ain't just one small, two small.
Mm.
And then, I mean, just look, it's insane. It's like right in front of you. Marcus Brimage, Max Holloway was a 45, and he was young. He's like 18 years old. Um, Diego Brandao, that was the actual winner of the same season that Marcus Brimage was on, 135. Poirier was 145. Dennis Steven, I don't remember if he was a 145 or 155, but I know he was real small and he was old.
Mm.
And Chad Mendez, what weight class is that? 145. Jose Aldo, what weight class is that? 145. This is a 55. Now, he fights Nick Diaz, somebody who's a true, I mean, he fights at 155 and 170. He lost. He
Yeah.
fucking lost. So, but it's just how promotion works. You know, you if you hear something 1,000 times, then you believe that shit. And the sad thing about this sport, sometimes that shit work for fighters too. They'll be fighting their opponent and I mean they'll be training for their opponent. They look at the guy and they're like, man, how am I gonna beat this guy? Like you're watching the highlight reels of him beating up everybody. The real MVP is the video editor. He's the one showing. He's like slow motion. He got music in the background. He's slamming the guy on the ground. You're like, oh my god, he's so awesome, and you are scared of that. Like, man, this is a man. He's human. Like I hit him in his shit one good time. He's gonna go to bed. The average human head is 10 to 12 pounds. How could I be scared of somebody? I just need to touch you. So but we get away from that because of people posting the same videos over and over and over. And then you hearing people like, he's unstoppable. He's the greatest. And then in the fashion that he beat everybody, I'm like, go look at who he fought.
Yeah.
None of those guys do. So it hopefully a lot of fighters get a lot. If it's one thing I'd be willing to share with them, it's like just the game behind it. And
Mm.
like so they don't waste time. They're not stuck in this mindset where they think that any game is played by the way that they portray. Don't
Mm.
it does not work like that. And
Mm.
you can keep going. And now, if they look at that, like, damn, are you serious? And then they go look at a lot of the people that were the greatest. Now, don't look at the older guys. The older guys literally had to fight whoever they put in front of them. If you look at somebody who just came up out of nowhere, um, and you're like, God damn, where did this guy come from? He looked like he been smoking through everybody. You go look up his past, you're like, this guy sucked, that guy sucked, this guy sucked. And you understand how he got there without ever messing up. There's a lot of fighters who have a record like 5-5, and you would easily look at them and say, hey, this guy sucks. But if you go on his record, you'll see that he fought everybody with belts. When he fought anybody that they called, because he was under the impression that he had to take a fight. You know,
Yeah.
I fight whoever they give me. That's how I get it. That's not how this works. But one of the things, the last thing before my ADD kills me, that I want to make sure that a lot of street fighters do, um, if you are joining an MMA or boxing gym for recreation, doesn't matter what gym. Doesn't even matter if you go for camaraderie, get in shape, live longer. It does not matter what boxing gym you go to. You'll probably have a better experience in a not so mainstream gym. If you are trying to go all the way to the top and you literally want to look for a coach that has been there before, but what he gonna tell you? How he gonna tell you? Like most of the stuff I teach my guys is like, well, I do this because one time I had to deal with this guy that did this. Like I can tell you from personal experience. Man, you'd be surprised how many people in Tampa they made it to like at least streaming services, and they fight. They like you're fighting somebody who can fight, and you have a coach that never fought. Are you out of your mind? Like if you in there with me, I am literally trying to kill you. If I'm trying to fight you, I am going to try to kill you, and I will ask for forgiveness after. Um, you better know what you're doing. And if you get in danger, you're gonna have to hear a voice that you know he know what to do. And like in boxing, you get clipped. You don't want to hear a coach talking about fight back. He's clipped. You don't have his faculties in him. You need to tie up. Like you need a coach that can tell you, and then or you need a coach that you come to the corner and you fucked up, but he loves you. So he's like, man, I don't like it. I mean, I know we got it all around, but I don't like it, man. We can go back to the lab and fix it. And some of these, I was just watching BKFC fight the other day, and the coach was like, the only reason I'm gonna let you stay in because it's a title fight. I'm like, well, he's gonna die. He's gonna die. It's not worth it. Like so. If you are really trying to go to the top, then you need to really vet check your coach, make sure he got fight, and then a good rule of thumb is to see if he's produced other champions. Like if there's other people that's competing, because some people good local, some people good international. Like I mean, different coaches is different, So you need to then from there, once you see like, man, this dude, he's really producing. Then you need to go there and check it out for like a month and see if the vibe works with you. Don't just go in and have him run your campus yet. Just go in, train there, listen to him. Talk to your coach at night, shoot him a message right before he go to bed and see what his mindset is like. And he goes and if he start asking you about your mindset, I mean he trying to know what you think. He trying to make sure y'all won when y'all go out to fight. Like you go. I mean, I know it sounds fighting is hard. Like it's really hard. So, but you got to check those things. I can't tell you, like, man, especially on the amateur side. A lot of times I'm in the back room and I I see a guy get called in for a camp, and he asked the guy, he said, "Do you?" He said, "So when a guy takes you in the mouth, how do you how do you escape? I want to make sure that when I'm cornered, I don't want to tell you something that's gonna get you fucked up." And the kid looks up at the guy and said, "What's the mouth?" So somebody already put him in a fight, with him not knowing like essential things. Like if I mount you and start bashing you in the face, and that's normal. Today that is normal because now you got YouTubers fighting. It's just a different time. So, but because of that, you have these guys that believe that like that is their depiction of fighting. So
Yeah.
I hope the next generation, or anybody who's watching that, like they go through that process. Because for a guy who didn't have the resources, I always did that. I went to the gym, they had jujitsu, they didn't have striking. I looked in the phone book and I said, there's a gym called Pearl Boxing Academy. It was 45 minutes away. I started doing my boxing over there 2 days a week, my jiu-jitsu 3 days. Some
Mm.
people flying in from other states, they were better than me. I said, well, I'm gonna if I get some money, I'm gonna take trips, and that's what I did. I took trips, went to Randy Couture's gym. Wasn't no smartphone, so I had to write down what he was telling me in my notes, and then go home. And there's no other way to see that look. Go home, get with the guys, and be like, hey, can you guys rep this with me? I want to make sure I retain it. Like it's hard, but you got to. I've always been the guy that goes and get what I
Yeah.
think if they do that, you'd be unstoppable.
I love it. I love the message. I mean, you know something. I've got to go in a minute now, but just to wrap things up, when I contacted you, and obviously we've been speaking for a while. I mean, obviously I know you've been in like a bunch of exciting fights, and you've been around a long time, and you know, you made it, even though you're like an underdog and things. I know everything didn't go to plan, but you know, when you look at how your life's come out now, but I knew there's a message in there, and I can't explain it, but it's part of how I pick people to talk with them, because it's like if you've got a guy who's like the top guy, he's like a world champion, he's done all this stuff, but he doesn't have a message behind it, he just wants to talk literally about the fights, and, I hit this guy and this happened and he fell over, and it's like, yeah, well, that's great, but it doesn't have meaning for people, even though it's interesting to hear about the fights. And with this, I try and create a space where people can just be like their authentic selves and things like this. And like, and you've said a few times, like, oh, ADD and all this. I mean, listen, when I was in school, they said about ADHD or whatever with myself. I don't know. It's never done me any harm. I mean, in fact, I think it's done me a lot of good. So I get where you're coming from. But
Yeah,
anyway, I try and create like, because I think you think that you're like rambling on, but it's not. It's actually a really good message that people need to hear. And I can tell that you've kind of wanted to say this for a long time. And, I think there need to be changes with like the way people do interviews as well, because it's like, I have some rough ideas in mind of what I want to talk about, and I do my research and all this. But then after that, it's up to, what people want to get out there, what has meaning to them, what has meaning to you. And obviously today we focused on like the business side and stuff. And I love it because there's so much lack of education, lack of awareness. As I've said earlier, there's a lot of this encouragement of like guys getting in there and, being the toughest guy around. And, listen, this because you've been talking about the sport will chew you up and spit you out if you don't do it the right way. And, I mean, like I've already said, if we touch some people's lives with, bringing that awareness to them, then, we've done our work. And, that's why I call it's presenting champions, but that's why I call it For Simply Inspired, because the channel is always got to have that inspirational side of things. And listen, when I
right.
came in, I thought like, okay, we've got some fun stories from your fights and then like some deeper lessons about like life or whatever. And that was all I was aiming for, man. It's like a few, and we've had that, we've had some fun stories and we've had like the deeper message that, I think is like super valuable because being around it for so long myself, even from the media side, you see a lot of like tragic cases, basically. I'm going to say, I've got, like you were
Yeah,
saying earlier, about a guy's 5-5, but he's fought like nobody's helped him. He's really talented, but he's fought like the guys with the belt and all this. I mean, I'm quite moved by the story. I'll have to go in a minute now, just shortly because of the time here and everything. But
life be life.
it's good. I love it though, and I would say otherwise. I mean, it's been a really good talk, man. It's been really good. And listen, I'm going to be cheering for you in your future fights. I mean, I've already been following your career more since the bare knuckle. I mean, it's like I mean, I've seen a bunch of your MMA. Like I've gone back and watched it. But I'm going to be cheering for you in your future fights. And I want to thank you not only for taking the time out of your morning, but I also want to thank you for being an open book because to do what we've done today, you're not just talking about the things that have gone well, you're talking about the things that have gone wrong in your life as well, but then you're using that to teach people and to be brutally honest like that, and to be keep it 100% real and straight up and everything. That takes a type of courage, I would say, because a lot of people like gloss over this stuff and say, oh yeah, but this didn't happen to me and I didn't have this problem and I was, everything was good. And there's a lot of bravado, there's a lot of ego, whereas you've just kept it 100% like from the heart. And the last thing I want to say to you, it's not a question, I'm just saying to you, I got all the respect in the world for that because that's what people learn from. And last thing, going back to what you said earlier about like legacy and stuff, you were saying about, when you're gone, people will remember you and all this. And I think in your case, they'll remember you obviously for the fights and what you've achieved, but they'll also remember you for passing on this type of knowledge. I mean, that kid who's nobody else is helping him, and he's probably been in the same situation as you with your mum and dad, like what you were saying earlier, or what something similar. If he even has a mum and dad, I mean, then and nobody's helped him, and you're the one taking him aside and saying, "Look, you've got to do it this way. I've been down that road, and it's not quite the way you want to go. You want to do it this way." Man, he'll remember that for the rest of his life, and then he'll pass it on to somebody else. That's the ripple effect, man. That's the what they talk about, the ripple effect. I'm sure you've heard of that. I mean, you're actually doing that. So I wanted to pass that on to you because what we do for ourselves dies with us, but what we do for other people lives on forever, and even if then those people one day they're gone as well, but then they pass it on to somebody else and somebody else and somebody else, and it never stops, positive or negative mind, with that. So in your case it's positive, obviously, the work you're doing. So that's my sort of parting shot to you, man, is just keep it up because this next generation now, they need to hear that about life in general, but especially if they're getting into the fight game, 110%. Anyway, I've got to shoot. I'm sorry, but thank you
Yeah.
so much. And honestly, man, I love your energy and I love your passion, and I love the fact that you've kept it no matter everything life has thrown at you. Basically, you've still kept the heart in what you do. And
What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Stop?
I know,
You
well,
just gotta keep pushing.
a lot of people do, though. A lot of people do. So no, I'll be cheering for you 100%. You enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you again, champ. Also, I'll send this to you as well when it's out, so you can share it as well. And between the two of us, we'll get it out there and just to try and get this message out to as many of the young people as we can, and we'll go from there. 100%. So, thank you, man. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. Thank you.
Big respect for you, and we'll keep in touch. Even after this, we'll keep in touch anytime, and we'll go from there. But you have a great day, man. I'll speak with you soon.
You too. Take care.
Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to the Simply Inspired YouTube channel, and there'll be more videos coming soon.